go by the stage name Respeto la Vida. Born in the Bronx, New York. Moved over to Manhattan. My parents are Dominican descent, so they kind of moved us over into Manhattan where all the Dominicans were. After a while, my dad got relocated, so we decided to move. Once again, we headed out to St. Louis, Missouri, and in St. Louis, Missouri is where this whole rapping thing came about. I have an older brother, Giovanni, he went by the name Dat1. He was the one that started with the whole music thing, and me being a little copycat, wanting to be like my older brother.
Yes.
I would hide in my room and write my little verses here and there. We stayed in St. Louis for about 3 years of our lives, and then my mom got fed up and she couldn't take it. She wanted to be back with her family, so my dad said, all right. So he picked us up, brought us back to New York. It was pretty much a domino effect, because Giovanni stopped doing music to pursue other things, and I took over, and I kept going with it and meeting a lot of people, making connects, and Chris caught on to that, and one day out of nowhere I noticed that he was writing music, and told him he was pretty good at it, and I was helping him out here and there, helping him out with certain verses and things like that, and then he partnered up with a best friend of his to form a group. The group was called THC at the time. There came a point in time that I parted ways with the gentleman that I was making music with, which was my partner, and he did the same. And we were still living at home with mom and dad, and one day it was just like, I think we should form a group. I approached him, I think we should just form a group. We named ourselves 2x1. Some guys, I don't know how they found us, but they asked us to come over and audition for them. They had connections here and there. So, we took the opportunity, we went, and they liked what we had, and they decided that they wanted to bring us over to Rough Riders. When they brought us over to the office saying that we were going to meet, DNY, which are the CEOs of the company, DNY ended up being out of town. But I took it upon myself to actually go into Rough Riders, the office, and somewhere or another I made my way into the back, just being sneaky, I guess, and made my way to the back, ended up meeting DNY's pop, which is Elber Shamsuddin. And he kind of, he said, yeah, my sons are not here. I don't know how this came about or who told you that, but put us on the spot. He said, let me hear what you have. So we popped in an instrumental that we had in our pocket, our music, beats that Chris made, because he was also a producer. So he produced the majority of our beats at the time. Popped the CD in, did one of our songs, and he was impressed. Asked us to come back. Said he wanted us to meet with DNY. Long story short, DNY I guess weren't interested. So Albert was, and Albert Shamsuddin, he's like the head, he's the head. So there's really no saying no to him. Yeah, so he took a liking in us, and he told us to come back for another meeting, and that was it. He presented us with a contract. He said, take this, go with your attorneys, do what you have to do. If you need my help, I'm there for you. He had a management company by the name of KPS. The only thing that was different about us is that at that point in time, we were doing everything in Spanish, or Spanglish. We would mix a lot of Spanish and English together, and he was really impressed with that, because that's around the time where reggaeton was coming in. We had a contract with him for about 4 years. Like I said, he took us up and down. We did a lot of shows. We enjoyed it. After the 4 years were up, I kind of decided that I wanted to form my own company. So I formed a company by the name of Tough Talk Music, TUF Talk Music. TUF is an acronym for the Última Familia, which means the last family. We had like 5 people under the management company. So, it started growing, and I would get shows every now and then for everyone, and all of us as one, as Tough Talk, everyone under the management company, as one group, we labeled ourselves tough talk. Chris, he's always been, Verb-Vida, he's always been the type of person that was full of action. He named himself Verb because verb, it's an action word. He started off with Verb Wonder, which, he was into graffiti a lot also. So he started off with Verb Wonder, which he would tag up and, do a lot of things young people do. When we got serious about the music, he changed it over to Verb Venom. He used that for many, 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 many years as we did, our music thing. And then he found his wife. He found his wife, Sabrina. Sabrina was a Christian woman. She was a believer in Christ, and she changed him. She got him to go to church. She got him to actually, get baptized. He was baptized in the Jordan River. And when he made that change, he decided that name Venom wasn't fit for what he was doing. So he changed it to Verb-Vida, which is life. He did a few projects, Christian lyric projects. And at the point in time, I wasn't really for that. I was still in my street mentality and wanted to do street music and not really thinking about what I was really talking about. I just knew I was thinking about what I was going through and being, hanging out and going to clubs and things like that. With Chris was trying to do something positive. He was trying to reach, a different genre, a different bunch of people. So, but I stuck with him. Throughout all of that. I stuck with him. He decided to, do his Christian lyric music, and I managed him. He put together an album called the Church Album, and we printed up that project, promoted it, and kind of started going into little ways of doing things, and decided that he didn't really want to move forward with that anymore. Which, it was a big argument between him and I, because I told him, you should stick to what you were doing. That fits you. That fits your life, that fits what you're doing, so stick with it, don't go back, let's move forward. Because he constantly preached to me about how I needed to change and stop doing that type of music and move forward and do, music that praise God and positive music that, any person can hear, not just an older crowd, young kids. I was in the process of moving. I was living upstate New York and decided to move back down to the city. And somewhere or another, I landed a job here in Florida. And Chris was already out here in Florida because he was in the Navy. So he was stationed out in Jacksonville. So he was out here in Florida already. So it was a big thing, He said, well, you're going to be close now. We're going to be able to do this music. I don't have to send you files and I'll be able to be in the studio with you. We'll actually be able to be in the studio together. And so we headed out. My wife and my family, my kids, we all jumped in the car, headed out towards Florida. We were going to make a pit stop in Yonkers because it was my son's birthday, June 30th. So we're driving down to Yonkers to say goodbye to my mother-in-law and to cut a cake for my son. And on that ride, I get a phone call from some girl that says, you don't know me, but, I've been dating your brother for such an amount of time. And I really didn't know it because he never mentioned her name. He never, as many times as I spoke to him, he never brought her up. So I didn't know anything of this girl. And then this girl tells me that, she received a phone call that, my brother passed away the night before, or that night on the 30th, early in the morning, in a car accident. And I kind of just went into flip mode, and I was just like, look, this is not a game, whatever you're doing, if you're upset at Chris for some reason, this is not the way to get back at him, And she just kept saying it to me, and I said, look, if you're joking with me, I'm gonna find you. And when I find you, it's not gonna be pretty. And like I said, I was still in my worldly way of thinking, and so I hung up the phone with her, and then I get a call from my youngest brother, CJ, and he says, listen, somebody just called me telling me Chris passed away last night. I said, yeah, I received the same phone call. I said, but, I don't believe that because, this girl's telling me she's been dating Chris for a while. He's never mentioned her. So I think it was just some girl that he, he was messing with, and maybe she's upset at him, or something. And whatever. So we hung up. Him and I hung up, and I keep driving. And I tell my wife, secretly, because I had the kids in the back of the car. So I tell her, getting this call. I got this call saying that Chris passed away, and her also. She said, that's probably just one of his girls just being upset or whatever. And then as I'm getting closer to Yonkers, I get another phone call, and it's the Navy. The Navy tells me, listen, your brother passed away. And I broke down. With them on the phone, I broke down, tears, and to the point that my kids just started crying without even knowing what was going on. Because, like I said, it's rare that I show that to my kids. They don't see me cry like that, After he passed, I said to myself that I would make sure his name would stay alive. I was looking at his album, Action Life, because we already had printed up the covers for it, and I'm looking at the cover, and it says Action Life. And then I said, okay, well, I started thinking of myself and what I was going through and my reaction to it. So what I did is I just put the re in front of the action, and it became Reaction. And I was going to name the whole album Reaction. But then one day my wife and I get a phone call from her best friend. And, she's playing with this application on her phone. And the application pretty much says, put your name in and it tells you what you're meant to be in life, or what your purpose is in life. So she puts my name in, and it tells her that I'm an experiment. It just hit me, and I said, all right, the reaction experiment, or a reaction experiment. It was just like, I think God is using me as an experiment. Let's see what this individual's reaction would be if I was to take his brother away. Everything that meant to, everything he had, his number one person. What would his reaction be to this whole thing? And being that my wife's best friend said I was an experiment, I said I think he's using me as an experiment to see what a person's reaction would be if their best friend, their brother died. So that's how I came up with the reaction experiment. Finally touched down in Florida. I started work, and there was a production company that I dealt with. They were based out of Atlanta, and these guys would send me beats every now and then, music, and it says, do something to that, send it back to us. And I'm driving to work one day, and I get an email, and it's this song, this beat on there. And when I played it, it said, I should have told you sooner, I would have let you go. And my hair stood up. And I'm like, wait, did I even tell these guys anything about what was going on? And I didn't.
Yeah, I know, yeah, I should have. I don't know why I didn't. And now days go by, and I'm wishing that I would have.
A Puerto Rican singer based out of New York. And she's an R&B singer, she's a choreographer, she's a dancer. She's very talented, and a good friend of mine. I met her right around the time we got the management deal with KPS. I started digging through Chris's computer. I came across this one beat that I thought was really catchy, and I started writing to it. And at the time, the day that I started writing to it, I was going through it. It was a rough day, and the hook just came into my head, the chorus came into my head that, every day that goes by, I think more and more about him, and I wrote it in Spanish, and the only person that I knew at the point in time that can sing that would be Danielle Pizarro, Danny P. She said, look, you don't even have to ask me, you should have just sent it to me, I would have done it, I would have, So I did, I sent it to her, and she did a great job.
Tell them it was so random. You led us to the Lord, the answer to every question. Quote him, use him as a reference. Words from Vida himself, another lesson. Yeah, a blessing in disguise, and not a day goes by that I don't think about you.
Fourth track is You and I, which after writing it, I decided that I wanted to put someone else to sing on it also. So I wanted to reach out to Danielle again, Danny P, to see if she would do it, but then it hit me that maybe I should put a man on it, a man's voice on it. And I reached out to my church brother, Rolly Hawkins.
Oh man, the first time I met Rudy was in church one day. We just finished praise and worship, and he just came up to me. He was like, "Yo, man, you can sing, y'all." I was like, "No, man, that's not me. That's God, because God, that's God. That's all God's gift right there." So he noticed that. He was like, "Oh man, that's cool." He was like, "I got a studio. Whenever you want to come by and drop a few songs, you can go ahead and do that." I told him, I was, working with some other cats on some other records, and I wouldn't get nowhere with them. So when I told him that story, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you can come to my studio anytime." And I was like, "All right." So I took advantage of it, and I had my car, and then just go down there, and we'd be up until like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning.
And we're working on some of his music, and towards the end of the night, I just, I asked him if he can sing this part of the song to see how it would sound, and he did a great job. He brought it to life. He actually, I had it in my head, but I can't sing, so I can't sing. I'm not an R&B singer, so I needed someone to really bring it out, and Rolly did that for me.
I never got to tell you what it means to me that you're my bee. My brother, 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 my brother.
B to the E, R to the B, B to the I, D to the A, B to the E, R to the B, B to the I, D to the A. Verb-Vida, 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 Verb-Vida.
The next song is called "The Resurrection," which is dedicated to his kids, his daughter Nyla and his son Chris and Aiden. Nyla, one day, she tells me she had a dream that she went to heaven, and she saw her dad, and she saw a bunch of other people in heaven, but her dad was the only one with wings. And that her dad showed her around heaven and explained to her that he was all right. Look, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm staying, this is what I do on a daily basis. I'm still doing music, and I loves it. And that hit home. That hit home. And then his son Chris, the second born, he had a dream that his dad came down a ladder right into his bedroom. And his dad sat next to his bed and, told him where he was and how he was doing and everything was okay. And that's why you hear in that song, on the first verse, which is dedicated to Nyla, I say, if I could pull him from the heavens and tell him how much you miss him. I started off like that. And in the second verse, I said, I would bring him down the ladder and place him right in your bedroom. Pretty much, I started it from what they told me their dreams were, So that song's called "The Resurrection," and I've always said, after hearing those stories, I always said to myself, man, if I can give these kids one gift, the biggest gift ever, it would be to resurrect their dad and give him to them as a gift. So that's how that song came about.
Enjoy the smile on your faces. Sit back, enjoy the smile on your faces. Going in, knowing it would only last for seconds. I would bring them down the ladder and place them right in your bedroom. Ask for you to wake up, I bring to you someone special. Ask you to wake Aiden, tell him daddy's here to visit. Watch you hug him, expressing how much you miss him. And the smile on your faces would touch me so deeply. I would have to breathe easy. Sit back and thank the Lord for making this all possible. Watching over your brother, keeping you out the hospital. And as I sit back watching you, I promise to myself to be a Theo and a daddy too.
I wish, and you saying that he wished that he can speak to his brother again and things like that. That one touched me because I had a cousin kind of close to me, and he died at the age of 16. So that kind of touched me because I'm like, the time we spent together, I wish I could have shared this with him. I wish I could have did this with him, and it didn't turn out like that. So God had another plan.
to me, it's like a cry out to God, like, God, like, you took my brother away, but you know, I wish you was here with me, but I know I got you here with me, so I wish that you were here with me. So it's like you praying. It's like to me, it's like a prayer. Like, God, I wish you would be here and be with me and be strong with me, you know. So that's why I think that's my favorite song, and I like the little beat to it too.
From what I hear, it's one of the people's favorites also. And that track, I was going through it one day. I was sitting in my bedroom, the edge of my bed, just, you know, crying and, you know, praying, asking God to help me out because I was going through it, and, you know, I just didn't want to feel that way anymore. You know, I was done with that. I just wanted, you know, I want to feel the way I was feeling before, regardless of him dying, you know, and I just kept wishing. You know, kept wishing that I wish I could just bring him back. I wish I could just hug him. I wish I could just hear his voice. Grant me that gift, you know, and allow me to see him, and that's how I wish came about.
I've wanted so long, it's starting to take my concentration, taking up my family time and time, you know, and waiting. You the perfect example. It hurts me when I say it, but God chose you, and I wish that I could change the time to tie up all the loose ends, put an end to this chapter, and pray that I do well enough to meet you in the after. This memory of you laying up in the casket keeps playing back in my mind like my conscience. I'm sorry for the nonsense.
Respeto la vida, Mr. Dynamo, dynamic motivation. That's the movement. And you know, like I said, it's dedicated to Chris, and his name is gonna live forever because I feel that's my duty, and I will continue doing music. I'm not gonna stop like I said I was, and I just hope that you guys pay attention because it's gonna be something very positive, very strong, and the movement is gonna be powerful and very motivational. And, I put a lot of work in for many years, and it's nothing like what I've put in these last 2 years. It's a totally different feeling, totally different energy that I had, and totally different dedication that I had to making sure that the world hears my story and hears his story. So, respeto la vida, Mr. Dynamo.
My only last wish is this, that I can open this pain and continue repping your name.